Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. I am a certified Zentangle teacher. Welcome to week 4, episode 16 of our floral series for 2025. We have completed 3 weeks, and let me show you what we have done. All right, we did week 1, this little garden with 5 floral patterns and some watercolor. Week 2, we did a Zentangle with 5 floral patterns and some watercolor. Week 3, we did 5 more floral patterns, but this time we put them all together with no empty space and some watercolor. And now we're starting week 4, which means we are going to start a completely different project. All right, so these are all Zentangle inspired art projects, which means a typical Zentangle tile is going to be a 3.5 by 3.5. And the idea is that you don't pre-plan, you just draw and doodle and fill it in, and you have this nice, quiet, peaceful moment. So what I'm doing with the florals is making it a little bit more complicated, and hopefully there's no stress, but I am trying to always teach you something new. So today is Monday, the first day of the week, but we are going to start with watercolor instead of starting with our florals. So we're going to do watercolor today, and then we will do one floral after that. All right, so I know you weren't prepared for this. You don't have your watercolors ready probably, but go gather them. If you have the Make Kit, you got your cute little palette. If you don't have the Make Kit, you can use any watercolors or like light colored markers or colored pencils, whatever you have around. Gather your paintbrush, a Micron bleed proof pen. This is the Sakura Micron pens, so they do not bleed when we get them wet. And then you need a little pencil for drawing. I also have my sketchbook to do some practice and my little bit of water, okay? The paper I'm using is Canson watercolor. It is 3.5 inches by 7.5 inches, and that's what we're going to be working on. All right, so we are going to begin with our pencil and our watercolor paper. Don't be nervous, this is going to be amazing. Okay, we're going to make a grid on our paper. We are not measuring. We are not worried about this being a perfectly symmetrical, even grid. We are just going to draw some lines and hope for the best. I forgot I also want you to have an eraser handy. Okay, there we go. All right, we're going to divide this horizontally into thirds, which to me is the hardest. Like if I had to pick the center and then divide it, that would be easier for me, but we're doing thirds, so we're just gonna do our best. So what I'm going to do is look at the side here, and I'm just going to make some little dashes where I think thirds might be. So 1, 2, 3. You see my little pencil mark? I want you to write so light with your pencil. Then I'm going to go to this side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to pick where I think thirds might land. And then just kind of look at them, make adjustments as needed. All right, once you have those, we're going to connect them so lightly with our pencil. Our pencil will be erased later, so it does not need to be straight, okay? We're just going to go right across our paper and connect this way. So mine look pretty good. My top one is definitely like smaller than the middle or the bottom, and I'm okay with that. I'm just going to leave it. Keep yours really light. I'll go a little bit darker so you can see it, but I do want to be able to erase it later. Okay, Now we're going to divide it in half. If it's easier for you, you could get a piece of scrap paper and you could cut out the shape, then you could fold it in half to give yourself a marker. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to guess at where I think the middle is. So I'm just going to go about there and about down here. You could always kind of start to bend it and see where that middle is. Again, it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to connect those. This is the hardest part of the whole week, just making our grid. The rest of it will get easier. All right, now we need to do this side into thirds and this side into thirds. So just like I did over here, I'm just going to pick where I think those thirds might land. And do the same thing down here. Adjust as needed and then connect them. Super light with your pencil. Okay, then I'm going to do this one in thirds. 1, 2, 3. That looks pretty good. Now we should have about 18 squares on our paper. You can go ahead and pause the video if you still need to work on that. But now I'm just going to kind of look at it and make sure they look pretty similar. This section here is wider than this one, so I'm actually going to move this line over just a tiny bit. That feels a little bit better to me. Okay. How does yours look? Are you nervous? Don't be nervous. Okay, now I want you to take your eraser and way over here on the left, I want you to erase just this one little line in that section. So now we have a big rectangle. Then I want you to look at this section here with these two, and I want you to erase that little middle section, and then you should have a long rectangle. Down here on the bottom, we're going to erase that middle section. So we have another horizontal. You should have 2 horizontals and 1 vertical. And then we're going to go to this one right here. So here's the center. And we're going to erase the middle of this rectangle. Now you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles and a square in the center. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing on this half. So I can just cover this half. And I'm going to go to these 2 squares here, and I'm going to erase the center. Right here I have 2 squares. I'm going to erase the center of that. Now I have 1 vertical, 1 horizontal rectangle. Down here at the bottom, you should have 2 squares. You should have 3, but these 2 here, erase that middle. And then these 2 on the end, erase the center of that. Okay, look at all those grids. So much potential. So we end up with kind of this cool pattern of like vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal with a square in the middle. Okay, grab your color palette and your paintbrush and your water. And then if you have a paper towel or your little towel that came in your kit, you can keep that nearby as well. Okay, I'm going to put my paintbrush in the water. And I'm going to pick up some of this pink color. You can watch me first if you want, but I'm really filling my brush. And then inside this rectangle here, I'm going to make a smaller rectangle that does not touch the edges and does not touch the lines. I go back into my water. I'm going to get a little bit more pink. I'm laying my brush on the side and using the belly of my brush. And I'm going to make this little, get more water, get more paint, this little rectangle of color. And it should not touch the pencil. It should not touch the edges. And I'm just going to let it dry. I like how nice and light it is because I am going to do pen over this later. I'm going to go to this half and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a pink rectangle right here. Watercolor can be very fast. You don't need to be, tiny, tiny details. So I'm going to get my brush wet, grab some of this pink right into the belly of the brush, lay my brush almost on its side, and give a nice swoop of color. Get a little bit more water, a little bit more pink. Do another one. And again. And now I have to be a little bit more careful because I don't want it to touch the pencil or the sides. And don't worry about the unevenness of the dark and the light. When it dries, it's going to have those variations and it's going to look beautiful. All right, dip my paintbrush back in the water, get it all clean. Now I'm going to go into this orange color and I'm going to fill my brush. And now I'm going to do this next rectangle, not touching the pencil lines and not touching the edge of the paper. More water, more paint. I want this to go pretty close to the edge because I do want it to get close to the pink without touching it. You can always go in and get a little bit more of that orange if you want to add any darkness to it. Go back into your water, go back into your orange paint. Do the same thing on this one over here. Water, paint, swish. I like how light these are turning out because the black pen will show up really well on them. All right, I'm going to go back into my water. I'm going to skip yellow for a moment, and I'm going to go to green. Getting my brush really into that paint. And I'm going to do this rectangle here, so lean into that belly of your brush. More water, more paint. And just quickly make a rectangle. If it's too light, go back in and get more green with less water. Water is what dilutes it and makes it light. So we don't want to go over our pencil because the pencil will show through, and you know, you can't erase the pencil once it's been painted over. Water, green, make a rectangle. So beautiful already. All right, I'm going to do purple next. I'm going to skip the blue. The blue is really bright and bold, but I think I'm going to do the purple and then the yellow in the middle. You can choose whatever you'd like. I just think this will be pretty. Getting my paintbrush wet, going right into that purple. Doing this rectangle. A little bit of water, a little bit of purple. If you have too big of a puddle, you can take your brush, rinse it out, wipe it off on your towel, and then go back in and you can lift if you need to lift. Water, purple, rectangle. If it's too dark, go in, lift some of it or spread some of it. See how it's drying, like the pink has some of the dark spots? these little things here. I think they're called blooms, I don't remember, but where they just sort of make these little floral type things. My orange, you can see it. That's because some parts were more wet than others. And I just think that looks really pretty. So I kind of love that. Okay, I'm gonna do my yellow next. And one more over here. I went over my pencil line and it's okay. I don't mind having the pencil there. Okay, I'm gonna dab my brush all the way to the bottom of my jar, getting it clean. And then with these cute little jars, you can just lay your brush on top inside those little flower petals, and it will dry nicely without keeping this soaking in the water. Okay, I'm going to move some things out of the way. And I'm going to set this aside for a moment so it can dry, and I'm going to go into my little sketchbook. All right, I'm going to open up my sketchbook to a new page. We are way at the back. All right, day 16. Hopefully I've got enough pages. 16, 17, 18, 19. I'm going to be short one, but I can put more than one on a page. Okay, today is day 16. All right, hopefully this is not controversial, but I thought it would be kind of fun to do doodle flowers that are not actual tangles. Is that terrible? I hope that's not terrible. We're just going to call them doodle flowers. I just wanted to, for this little palette here, I want to have very like airy, easy, repeatable flowers that don't have a lot of detail and a lot of, I don't know, we don't want a lot of like the drama with the darkness. We don't want a lot of lines. So we're just going to do doodle flowers, and I hope you love them. And if you want to name them, you can, if that makes you feel better to have a name. But we're going to call this one Doodle Flower 1. Okay, Doodle Flower 1. Are you ready for it? Okay. For this one, we are going to make a big letter U. Oh no, sorry. Okay. Then we're going to put a line across the top. And then we're going to put 4 lines coming out the top, but I want the side ones to be a little bit at an angle, and then just 2 straight ones. And then put a good size circle on the top of each. And we're going to add some flicks at the bottom, but I want you to really focus on pushing down hard and flicking up. Curving them on the sides a little bit. There's probably a word for this style of drawing, but I love this. I do this often in my own drawing, so I really wanted to show you it today. If you know the name of the style, you can let me know. But now that we have our basic shape, I'm going to go over it a couple more times, loosely and kind of messy. Okay, so let me zoom in a bit so you can see how cool this turns out. All right, I'm going to go across the top and then the U, and across the top and then the U. Just a couple of times. And then I'm going to do these lines a couple times. And then I'm going to do my circles at least one more time, if not two. And see how that changes it into kind of a messy doodle, but it gives you room to sort of make mistakes and, you know, not get the shape exactly right the first time. And then as you play with it, I don't know, it just kind of fixes itself. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do a stem, and my stem is going to be just down pretty straight today, I think. And then I would just do that again. Just trace over them, but let yourself be a little bit messy, a little bit off center. And let's do some leaves, and these leaves I'm going to do a curve, and then go back to that first point and do a curve. Same thing here, a curve and a curve. And then I thought it'd be cute to put some circles inside just to match what we have going on at the top. And then I do that curve and curve again, and that curve and curve again. And I go over the circles once more. So light on my pen. I forgot to mention, when I'm doing the second little layer, I'm going so light on my pen. And then with these doodles, I love to add just some little dots, maybe down the side, maybe down the side of the stem. You can put them in the plant. Wherever you want. So that is going to be forever named Doodle Flower 1, unless you guys come up with something better, but it's really not a tangle or a pattern. It's just a flower doodle. Okay, let's go back to our palettes. Make sure yours is completely dry, okay? It's been sitting for a moment, so hopefully it's okay. I'm going to show you this little tool that I have. I think it's just called a heat gun, but mine is a Chandler. Where's the name? Oh, it's hard to see. Chandler tool. And it has 2 settings. And it is great for watercolor. As long as you don't have puddles that end up spraying around, you can just turn this on and you can dry your work. Okay, so that's a handy little thing. I'll link it below in the description of the video in case you want it. If your paper starts to curl, you can just kind of bend it back. Water and heat will do that to you. Okay, we're going to do Doodle Flower 1, and we're going to do it right here on this pink one. I'm excited to try this. So this is just a different technique where we put the paint down first and then we draw. Okay? Such a fun way. A lot of people will prepare tiles in advance and have little swatches of color and then go back later and tangle on them. All right, I've got my little doodle book here so I remember all the steps. And I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to begin with that U shape, leaving room though at the top for those little lines. I probably could have made mine down a bit further, but that's okay. Then I'm going to make my line across the top. I'm going to put in those 4 lines. The 2 outside ones are going to go out just a little bit at an angle. And then the 2 middle ones, and add those circles. Let's put in the stem. I'm just letting my stem kind of end openly. If you want it to go all the way to the edge of the pink, you can, or if you want to put a little bottom on it or some grass, you can, but I'm just going to leave mine open-ended. And I'm going to do a bump and a bump this way. Bump and a bump. And add in my circles. You are welcome to do a completely different leaf if you would like. I'm going to do some flicks of my pen. And now comes the fun part where we get to just trace over the whole thing. So I'm going to start with this middle one. I'm going to do the first line. I'm going to go around that bottom. I'm going to do these little lines and the circles. The stem and the leaves. Do it 2 or 3 times, as many as you want. So light on your pen. Do the little circles. And then I'm going to add some little dots for some flair. I'm going to put some dots up here and out the side. On this side over here. And then I'm going to go just inside the pink edge, and I'm going to draw a little very, very light frame. So just like this and this. It's so nice and wiggly and unperfect. Then I'm going to trace that and just give it a second little bit of a line. And there's Doodle Flower 1. Okay, when I go to the second half of my paper, I'm not going to do it on the pink, I'm going to do it on the green. So I'm going to slide my paper over here. And I'm going to go to the green box over here, and I'm going to do the same flower. You don't have to. You're welcome to put in other florals, maybe some that you liked from the last couple of weeks. But I'm going to do it on here. So I'm going to do my letter U and the top. My little 4 pieces coming out with the circles on top. Remember to fill your space. If you make it too tiny, then add a second one. It's okay. Make your stem. And bump for a leaf with some little circles. Maybe I'll do my next leaf down a little bit just for fun, because sometimes that happens on accident and we're sad they're not perfectly lined up. So If we do it on purpose, we won't be disappointed in ourselves. Do some flicks. And I want you to compare your two florals right now and just how different it looks once we do that second layer of lines. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just trace those. Now mine is kind of narrow. I want it to take up more space, so maybe I'll purposely go out to the sides a little bit to make it bigger. Very light on my pen. Doing my circles and those little short lines. My stem. My leaves. Add some dots for embellishment. I'm going to go up the side. Put some in the top of this flower. Down the side over here if you want. Let's add a little ladybug crawling up this one. I'm going to make a bump. Put in some little spots. Give it a tiny little head. And if you want to outline that one and give it a little bit of a doodle look, you can. Then I'm going to do that inside frame. So I go just inside that green a little bit. Now, if you have like this corner here is kind of up high, your frame can start on the white part. It doesn't matter. Just kind of nice to have some of that green peeking out of the frame. Make your line and then make your second little wiggly line purposely near it, but also letting it go off the edges a bit. And there you go. Episode 16, day 16, week 4, and we have started a new doodle project. I hope that you loved that one. I hope you don't mind that it's not an official tangle and that you don't mind it being just a doodle flower. I love it. I love this technique. I hope you do too, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.